chapter number 2, verse 11. And it reads, for the grace of God that bringeth salvation. Runaway grace. Before I get started, I want to talk about what grace is. Grace is what we call God's unmerited favor. Grace is favor. You do something for somebody that they don't deserve, you do them a favor, Chris. It's grace. If it cannot be earned and if it's given, then it's a gift. And so the scripture says, as Paul writes to Titus, one of his pupils in the gospel, he says, the grace of God that bringeth salvation has appeared to all men. And that grace is wrapped up in the person of Jesus Christ. For God sent his son into the world that we might be saved. And grace is actually a person, Chris. It's not only a gift, but it is a person, and it is the person Jesus Christ. Prior to that, before Jesus came, God was interacting with man according to the law. Law of Moses, do this, do that, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that, according to the law. And the law really was, as the scripture says, a schoolmaster. It was a coach to lead us to God. All the law did was show us what was wrong. Showed us the difference between what was right and wrong, because the law said don't do this, so you knew that that was not something that you would do. I'll give you an example. Prior to the law of Moses, somewhere around Exodus, but in Genesis, you see people like to say, well, you know, Abraham had a whole bunch of wives. Look at that. Look at the people in the scripture. They had a whole bunch of wives, so polygamy must be all right. But that was before the law. God came along, he said, I got to stop all this now. The law came. And then through the law, people found out, I'm not supposed to do that, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And so what you ended up understanding is the mind of God toward sin, toward life, through the law. People understood that I should not do certain things because God says don't do it. This is not what God requires. And so the law continued all the way through the Old Testament, through the book of Malachi. In fact, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are actually Old Testament books. And you say, well, no, because when I look at my Bible, it's in the New Testament. I know that. I know that. It's split in the New Testament as it relates to how your Bible is organized. But Jesus came under the law. The law, the Old Testament, was still in place. Because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John talk about Jesus. And so he is coming under the law because he had to fulfill the law of Moses. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John just tells the same story in different ways from different vantage points, but it is under the law. And so the new covenant that starts after the resurrection of Jesus Christ really does not start until the book of Acts. The actual New Testament, Brother Terry, does not start until the book of Acts. Because Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, you can call them transitional books. Jesus is coming to set the stage for now living by grace and not all these rules. And in the Old Testament, they had about 614 laws. I know you said, well, the 10 Commandments, well, you got to read a little bit more. It ended up being about 614 laws that they had to obey. And Jesus came and he said, you know what? Now it's a new administration. It's the administration of grace. That brother, no turtle doves and no animals for sacrifice. Think about this. This will be a problem. Because that means as pretty as you guys look, as clean, as smooth as y'all fellas look, this morning you would have had to go out in the field and find a cow, a bull, a turtle dove now. I mean, you would have to do all of that and raise up in the church to present it before me. Jesus said, I'm doing away with this system. I'm doing away with this system because the system really is a picture of me. Really all the turtle doves, all the lambs, all the animal sacrifices that the people had to bring really was a type or a picture or a shadow of me anyway.
All right.
If you know the Old Testament, you understand that these sacrifices had to be without spot and blemish. You couldn't say, you couldn't come to the priest and say, I got a cow this morning for my sin, and then the cow, it had hair on one side of his leg, and I had got busted out and all that. You couldn't bring these old mangy animals and say, well, look, I got our sacrifice.
Okay.
Because in the Old Testament, when you brought the animal to the priest had to inspect the animal. He would look up under the animal, look at the ears, look at the eyes, and make sure that, brother Terry, this wasn't no animal that you had been treating unfairly. And he had to inspect the animal. And once they inspected the animal to make sure that it was without spot or blemish, it wasn't a mangy animal, he said, okay, this offering is now accepted for your sin. And Jesus is saying, really, that was me. The bull, the goat, the turtle, the lamb that was slain, all of that was me. And the fact that it had to be without spot and without wrinkle was a picture of it had to be sinless.